I had always trusted my instincts, always relied on my own judgment. Yet somehow, the one place I felt safest, my penthouse, my home, my sanctuary, had become the stage for the most shocking betrayal of my life. And I didn't see it coming. It started with a simple buzz on my phone. An AirDrop from an unknown sender. Curious, I swiped it open, thinking it might be some mistake or a funny meme from a friend. But what appeared on the screen was nothing short of a nightmare. Liam. And Macy. My assistant. My right-hand woman in the company I had built from the ground up. And they were in my bed. My bed. My sanctuary. My private space where I had thought only Liam and I had ever existed. I dropped the phone as though it burned my hands. My chest tightened, my lungs refused to cooperate, and the world tilted. The walls of the penthouse seemed to close in as disbelief washed over me. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. What the hell? I whispered, my voice trembling with a mix of rage and shock. And then they appeared. Liam, standing at the doorway as if he hadn't noticed anything, and Macy, frozen mid-step, caught in the act. Kira, Liam's voice was too calm, too measured, like he had rehearsed this excuse 1,000 times. It's not what it looks like. I laughed, bitter and hollow. Not what it looks like. Liam, they're in my bed. Our bed. And it's Macy. My assistant. What do you call this? Macy's face was pale, guilt written all over her features. Kira, I didn't mean for you to see this. Please, her voice faltered, and for a moment, I almost felt pity. Almost. But then I looked at Liam, and everything shifted. The charming smile I had once adored now felt like a weapon. A mask hiding a man I no longer knew. How long? I asked, my voice low but sharp, the air between us tense enough to cut with a knife. What? His brows furrowed, pretending confusion, but his eyes betrayed him. Slightly guilty, slightly proud. I took a step forward, fury boiling beneath my skin. How long, Liam? How long have you been doing this behind my back? He opened his mouth, and I could see the words forming, excuses, lies, rehearsed phrases meant to placate. But none of them mattered. I wasn't listening. Not really. I felt a wave of nausea, the betrayal twisting in my stomach. Every memory of trust, every late-night conversation, every shared laugh, it all felt tainted. Everything I had built with him, the empire, the life, the love, I felt it slipping through my fingers. I trusted you, I whispered, more to myself than to him. My voice cracked. I trusted you with everything, and this is what I get. Macy shifted, avoiding my gaze, muttering something I couldn't even hear. I shook my head, my heart pounding, and I realized that I didn't need to hear the lies. The image on my phone said it all. I walked toward the door, needing space, needing to breathe, to think. I can't even look at you right now, I said, voice trembling. Get out. Both of you. Now. Liam's hand reached for me, but I swatted it away. Macy tried to speak again, but I didn't listen. I fled into the hallway, my fingers trembling as I gripped the railing, my thoughts racing faster than my heartbeat. How could I have been so blind? The way he smiled, the way he whispered sweet things, it had all been calculated, a mask hiding the truth. And my own assistant, someone I had trusted implicitly, had stabbed me in the back. I needed answers. I needed control. And above all, I needed a plan. Because I was Kira. I didn't stay a victim. Not then. Not ever. And as I stared at the city's skyline from the penthouse balcony, the cool wind brushing my face, I vowed silently. Liam had no idea what he had just unleashed. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. I should have felt safe in my own home. I really should have. But after what I had seen, after the betrayal, the lies, the deceit, I was walking on a knife's edge, every step measured, every breath cautious. That evening, I thought a sauna session would help calm me, clear my mind after the chaos of the day. The heat, the quiet, the solitude. I craved it. I needed it. But as I stepped inside and closed the glass door behind me, I immediately felt something was off. The usual warmth was there, yes, but there was also a strange, stifling pressure in the air. I tapped my smart home app to adjust the temperature. Nothing. The numbers on the screen flickered, and then froze. Frowning, I tried again. Still nothing. Maybe it's just a glitch, I muttered to myself, trying to brush away the unease crawling up my spine. But the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. Then the heat started to rise. Slowly at first, almost imperceptibly, but then faster, crueler, pressing against my chest like a vice. I opened the door.
Locked.
Liam, I shouted, panic beginning to thread through my words.
Liam.
Macy. Anyone. No answer. Just the hiss of the sauna heater growing louder. My phone, my lifeline, was unresponsive. Every app, every connection, every override was disabled. It was as if the house itself had betrayed me. My pulse raced, rapid and shallow. Sweat poured down my face, soaking the front of my workout top. My breathing became jagged, ragged, like each inhale was a battle. I pounded on the glass door, my knuckles stinging, but it wouldn't budge. "Oh my God, he's doing this," I whispered, voice trembling. He's trying to kill me." I stumbled back, gripping the benches for support. The heat pressed in from every side, suffocating, relentless. My mind flashed back to the photo, Liam and Macy, their smiles and whispers in my own bed. That betrayal had ignited something cold and bitter inside me, but now it was terror, raw and consuming. My chest tightened painfully. I gasped, trying to breathe, but the sauna felt like a furnace. My vision blurred. I stumbled, trying to find some footing, some air, anything to slow the panic threatening to overtake me. Why would you do this?" I managed to choke out. "Why, Liam? Why would you?" No answer. Silence. Just the oppressive heat and the cruel inevitability of what I realized was happening. He wasn't just betraying me anymore. He was trying to erase me. My knees buckled. My hands hit the hot wooden benches. The sweat stung my eyes. My throat burned. I tried calling out again, but my voice was hoarse, almost gone. My fingers fumbled with the phone. Desperate, useless. I collapsed against the back wall, heart racing faster than it had ever raced in my life. Panic was a physical weight pressing down on me, making it impossible to think, impossible to move. Every breath was a struggle. My mind, in rapid-fire flashes, replayed every lie, every secret smile, every whispered word I had trusted. And then the darkness started to creep in. Not suddenly, not violently, but softly, like a curtain being drawn. I tried to fight it, to scream, to move, but my body felt heavy, distant, disconnected. "Please no," I whispered, barely audible. My eyes closed as my mind started to drift. The last thought I had before the world faded completely was of Liam, the man I had loved, the man who had betrayed me. And then nothing. I woke up with a gasp, the cold sweat clinging to my skin. My eyes fluttered open to see the familiar wooden walls of the sauna, but something was different. The heat wasn't suffocating. The air wasn't heavy. My phone rested safely on the bench beside me, fully charged, fully functional. Blinking against the harsh fluorescent light of the sauna, I saw the date on the screen. My heart skipped a beat. 2 days before the accident. 2 days before Liam had tried to kill me. I sat up slowly, trying to steady my breathing. At first, it felt like a dream, like some cruel trick of my mind. But the images from before were still vivid. The betrayal, the photo, Liam's calm smirk as if he had orchestrated everything. This time, I had a choice. This time, I wasn't powerless. I reached for my phone, fingers trembling, and scrolled through the security footage I had downloaded last week. The AirDrop.
Liam.
Macy. My stomach churned at the sight of them, but anger surged through me, fierce and empowering. No more fear. No more tears. This was my second chance. I needed someone I could trust, someone who could help me outsmart Liam, someone who had the skills and integrity to match his cunning. My mind immediately went to Hale, head of cybersecurity at my company. He had always been suspicious of Liam's access levels, always cautious when Liam tried to bypass security protocols. And though I had never relied on him emotionally, now I needed more than skill. I needed loyalty. I dialed his number, hands still shaking. "Hale," I said, voice steady despite the adrenaline. "I need your help. Something is coming, and it involves Liam. I can't explain everything, but I need someone I can trust completely." There was a pause on the line. Then his calm, deep voice. "Kira, I've always been suspicious of him. If you think something's wrong, I'll trust your instincts. Tell me everything." I took a deep breath, my hands gripping the phone tightly. And I told him everything. The photo, the AirDrop, the betrayal, the near-death in the sauna. Hale listened silently, without interrupting, without judgment, only focus. And when I finished, he said, "We'll fix this. But we have to be careful. One wrong move, and he'll suspect something. We can't just retaliate. We need a plan." His calmness was a balm, his trust in me like a shield I hadn't known I needed. For the first time since discovering Liam's betrayal, I felt a flicker of hope. Not just hope, I felt power. I could see the endgame clearly now. "We have 2 days," I said, my voice firm. 2 days to gather proof, set a trap, and make sure he never hurts me or the company again. Hale nodded on the other end of the line. "Then let's make these 2 days count. We'll be methodical. We'll be smart. And we'll make sure he doesn't see it coming." A sense of determination settled over me, sharp and precise. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was strategizing, planning, preparing. Liam thought he could manipulate and control everything, but this time, the power had shifted. And as I stared at my reflection in the sauna glass, sweat drying on my skin, I made a silent vow. Liam had underestimated me. He had underestimated the woman he tried to destroy. Not this time. This time, I would be the one in control. I stepped out of the sauna, the cool air hitting my skin like a promise. The city lights sparkled through the windows, distant and beautiful, as if they were cheering me on. I felt my pulse steady, my mind clear, my purpose unwavering. This was my second chance at life, at justice, at survival. And I wasn't going to waste it. Liam had no idea what was coming, and I intended to make him pay. Hale arrived at my penthouse just as the city was beginning to twinkle under the evening sky. He didn't knock. He didn't hesitate. He simply stepped in, calm and composed, like he had always belonged there. "Evening, Kira," he said, his voice low, steady. "You sounded serious on the phone. I hope it's not as bad as you implied." I didn't answer immediately. I studied him instead. The lines of concern etched lightly across his forehead, the faint crease between his brows. I had always respected him professionally, but now I was realizing just how much I needed someone like him. Someone I could trust without hesitation. "It's worse," I said finally, my voice quiet but resolute. "It's Liam. He's been lying, cheating, manipulating, and he's capable of much worse. I think he wants to destroy me, maybe even kill me." Hale's eyes darkened. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Tell me everything. From the beginning." I walked him through it, the accidental AirDrop, the photo, the betrayal, my near-death in the sauna. With each word, Hale's expression shifted from concern to focused calculation. He didn't flinch. He didn't interrupt. He just listened. And somehow, that made me feel safer than I had in months. When I finished, he nodded slowly. "I've been suspicious of Liam for a while, but this confirms it. And you're lucky you've got a second chance." I raised an eyebrow. "Second chance?" "Yeah," he said, leaning against the counter, arms crossed. "You woke up 2 days before the sauna incident. That's more than luck. That's opportunity. And we're going to make the most of it." Something about the way he said it, the quiet confidence, the unshakable calm, made my chest tighten. I realized I didn't just trust him professionally. I trusted him completely. Every instinct, every plan, every step I needed to take, I knew he would back me. No questions asked. And we'll need to be smart, he continued. Liam thinks he's in control. Macy is his partner in this. We can't just confront them. We need a plan that puts us ahead, where every move they make plays right into our hands. I nodded, feeling a surge of determination. So, we trap them digitally? Make them think they're stealing millions, but actually? Hale's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile.
Exactly.
Every step they take will be tracked. Every keystroke, every authorization, every attempt to manipulate funds, it all goes into an account we control. Liam won't see it coming. I took a deep breath, feeling both exhilarated and reassured. You make it sound so simple. He chuckled softly, a low, warm sound. It's not simple. That's why you have me. And besides, his gaze met mine unwavering. You don't just need a protector. You need someone you can rely on completely. And you've got me. The warmth in my chest spread, not from the heat of the penthouse, but from something far deeper. His presence, steady and unflinching, made the fear I had carried for months seem distant, almost trivial. For the first time since Liam's betrayal, I felt safe. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. I don't just need your skills, Hale. I need your trust. Can I count on you? Completely? He held my gaze for a long moment before nodding, firmly. You can. Every step of the way. I won't let him hurt you. Not this time. And just like that, a bond formed. Not romantic, not yet, but something equally powerful.
Trust.
Loyalty. A partnership forged in fire, betrayal, and the desire for justice. I exhaled slowly, letting the tension drain from my shoulders. Then let's start. Let's take him down before he even realizes what's happening. Hale smiled, but it wasn't the easy, casual kind of smile. It was the kind that spoke of determination, competence, and unwavering loyalty. Then let's do it, Kira. Step 1, set the trap. And as I watched him pull out his laptop, mapping out every detail, every vulnerability, I realized something. Liam hadn't just underestimated me. He hadn't even considered the possibility that I wouldn't face him alone. And this time, I wouldn't. By the time midnight rolled around, the penthouse felt less like my home and more like a command center. Screens glowed in every corner, lines of code scrolling quietly while the city pulsed outside the windows. Yet somehow, despite the intensity of it all, I didn't feel overwhelmed. I felt protected. Hale sat across from me at the kitchen island, laptop open, fingers moving with practiced precision. Liam's access tokens are still valid, he said. Which means he hasn't changed anything yet. That arrogance will cost him. I let out a slow breath. He always thinks he's the smartest person in the room. Hale glanced up at me, eyes softening.
He's wrong about that.
The words hit deeper than I expected. We worked in silence for a few moments, the only sound the faint hum of electronics. I watched him more than I probably should have. His calm, the way he leaned forward slightly when something required extra attention, how focused he became when the task demanded perfection. You know, I said quietly, I used to think I had to handle everything alone, that relying on someone was weakness. Hale didn't look up right away. And now I realize I was wrong. I admitted. If I hadn't called you, I don't know where I'd be. He finally looked at me then, his expression unreadable but sincere. You were never meant to do this alone, Kira. I swallowed, a strange warmth spreading through my chest. He turned the screen toward me. Here's the core of the trap. Liam thinks he's initiating a fund transfer. He'll see everything he expects, account names, balances, confirmations. But the backend routes it all into a secure escrow. Only you have the release key. So he's stealing from himself, I said slowly. Exactly. A bitter laugh escaped me. That's almost poetic. Almost. As the minutes turned into hours, the weight of everything began to settle in. My husband wasn't just betraying me emotionally, he was preparing to erase me financially, to rewrite my life as if I had never mattered. I keep wondering, I murmured, staring at the city lights. Did he ever love me? Or was I just a stepping stone? Hale closed his laptop gently. Does it matter anymore? I thought about it. About the woman I had been before, confident, driven, trusting. No, I said softly. It doesn't. He moved closer, not touching, just near enough that I could feel his presence grounding me. You're not broken, Kira, he said. You're still the same woman who built everything from nothing. You're just wiser now. My eyes burned, but I refused to cry. Not tonight. Promise me something, I said, turning to him. No matter how this ends, don't disappear on me. His gaze didn't waver. I'm not going anywhere. The words were simple, but they settled over me like a vow. We finished the setup just before dawn. The trap was ready, silent and invisible, waiting for Liam to walk straight into it. I leaned back in my chair, exhausted but strangely alive. It's done. Hale nodded. Now we wait. The next day, the city felt different. Bright, ordinary, unaware of the storm I was quietly orchestrating in my own home. The skyline sparkled as if mocking Liam, who had no idea that every step he would take today was already predicted, mapped, and trapped. Hale arrived early, as usual, his calm presence a constant anchor. Morning, Kira, he said, placing a black coffee next to my laptop. You slept at all? I shook my head, but a small smile tugged at my lips. A little. The adrenaline keeps me awake. He gave me a knowing look.
Good.
You'll need it today. Everything starts now. We went over the plan one more time. Liam would attempt to transfer the company's funds, money he thought he could steal without anyone noticing. But instead of enriching himself, he would unknowingly deposit every cent into a secure escrow account I controlled. Every authorization, every approval, every step had been rerouted through our system. Hale had built the trap so perfectly that Liam's arrogance would blind him to it entirely. I have to admit, Hale said, leaning back slightly in his chair, you're meticulous. You thought of everything. I let out a short laugh, a mix of exhaustion and pride. I didn't get to the top by being careless. But I couldn't have done it without you, Hale. Your insight, your skills, this is our plan working together. He met my gaze, and for a moment, the professional barrier between us softened. There was trust there, no, more than trust. A connection built from mutual respect, loyalty, and the understanding that we were both here to protect something precious. My life, my company, my future. Don't underestimate me, he said quietly, eyes locking onto mine. I wouldn't let him touch a single cent, or you, without consequences. I felt a flutter of something unfamiliar. Safety? Comfort? Something more. But I pushed it aside. There was work to do. We monitored the system from my penthouse office, each keystroke of Liam's logged, each step anticipated. The tension was palpable, the silence broken only by the occasional hum of computers or the clicking of a keyboard. You ready? Hale asked, nodding toward the screen. He's about to initiate the first transfer. I took a deep breath, fingers hovering over my mouse. Ready. The transfer went through exactly as predicted. Every alert, every notification, every confirmation appeared as Liam expected. He smiled smugly, unaware that each of his actions was being recorded and rerouted into the escrow account. You've got him, I whispered, almost to myself, though Hale heard it. I do, he said softly. And soon he'll realize he's been outsmarted. But until then, let's watch. Minutes stretched like hours. I could feel my pulse racing, each second filled with anticipation. And then it happened. Liam's first sign of frustration. A notification popped up on his device, a minor discrepancy he didn't understand. He's noticing something, I said, leaning forward, heart hammering. Hale's hand brushed mine briefly as he reached for his laptop. The touch was light, almost accidental, but I felt it like a spark. Stay focused, he murmured. We're not done yet. I nodded, eyes glued to the screen. Liam was still in control, still arrogant, still blind. But every move he made, every attempt to cover his tracks, every smirk of self-assurance, it played right into our hands. By the end of the day, the trap was complete. Liam and Macy had unwittingly deposited every cent into my control, their greed and overconfidence their own undoing. I leaned back in my chair, letting out a long exhale. "It's done," I said, voice trembling with exhaustion and exhilaration. "We did it." Hale looked at me, eyes softening, a hint of pride and something more reflected in them. "We did it together, Kira. And we'll finish this. One final step." For the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of peace and a dangerous, thrilling excitement. Liam had underestimated me, underestimated us, and now justice was inevitable. And through it all, Hale was there. Not just as my protector, not just as my ally, but as someone I could finally trust completely. The morning air felt unusually heavy, as if the city itself was holding its breath. I arrived at the office before Liam, my heels clicking on the marble floor, mind sharp, focused. The trap we had set, every detail Hale and I had planned, was ready. All that remained was for him to take the bait. Hale was already there, calm as ever, monitoring the system from a secure station in my office. "He's on his way," he said quietly, eyes scanning the logs. I nodded, pretending to focus on emails, but my chest hammered with anticipation. The thrill of impending justice made my fingers twitch, my mind race. After months of lies, betrayal, and near death, this was finally the moment to reclaim everything: my company, my dignity, my life. The first alert came almost immediately. Liam was initiating the transfer. My stomach flipped, but I reminded myself, he didn't know a thing. Every keystroke, every confirmation, every authorization was being silently rerouted into the escrow account I controlled. Hale leaned over my shoulder. "He thinks he's in control, Kira. Watch him unravel." And unravel he did. A few minutes in, Liam frowned at his screen. Something wasn't adding up, though he had no idea what. He tapped the keyboard, his fingers moving faster now, a bead of sweat forming at his temple. "What the— That's not right," he muttered under his breath. I barely stifled a laugh. This was it. This was the look of a man realizing, slowly, painfully, that he wasn't as clever as he thought. "Check the back end," Liam barked at Macy, his voice sharp, panicked. But Macy was frozen, realizing too late that she had been complicit in the trap. "Caleb, wait, I mean Liam, it's not working," she stammered. Her words cracked like fragile glass, and I felt no sympathy. She had chosen this path just like he had. I exhaled slowly, allowing the sense of triumph to settle in my chest. "He's caught," I whispered, not to Hale but to myself. Finally. Hale smiled, dark eyes gleaming. "He's learning the hard way that underestimating you was his biggest mistake." I leaned back, watching Liam rage, his movements frantic, his face flushed. Every click, every attempt to fix what he thought was an error, only pushed him further into the trap. The money, the power he had tried to steal, was slipping through his fingers, safe in my hands and ready for legal separation. And then I heard Hale's low voice, calm but intimate. "You did this perfectly. Every detail, every precaution flawless." I glanced at him, the weight of his praise and trust hitting me harder than I expected. "We did this," I corrected softly. "Together." Hale's gaze lingered on mine a moment longer than necessary, and I felt that familiar warmth, the trust, the closeness, the unspoken understanding that had been building since we started this fight. There was more than strategy here. There was connection, something that had grown quietly alongside our meticulous planning. By noon, Liam and Macy were desperate. Emails flew, calls went unanswered, and yet every move they made confirmed their failure. Their arrogance, their greed, their betrayal, all of it now served as their undoing. Finally, Liam slammed his hands on the desk, red-faced and furious. What happened? This isn't possible." I stood, walking toward him with steady, deliberate steps. My heels echoed in the empty office, a reminder of the power I had reclaimed. "It is possible," I said, voice cold and unwavering. "Because you underestimated me. Because you thought you could betray me and get away with it. But the truth is you've already lost." Hale stepped beside me, firm and silent, his presence a shield I had come to depend on. Liam's eyes flicked between us, confusion and rage battling on his face. He realized, too late, that the woman he tried to destroy had outsmarted him at every turn. I felt the rush of triumph, of vindication, of justice finally served. And somewhere deep inside, I felt the pull of something else, pride, relief, and a warmth that came from knowing Hale had been there for every step. Liam had lost everything, his money, his control, his power. And for the first time in months, I could breathe. The empire was mine. The betrayal had been avenged. And maybe, just maybe, I could finally allow myself to trust and even care for the man who had never let me fall. The office was quiet now, almost eerily so, the chaos of the previous day reduced to faint echoes in my mind. Liam's betrayal had been exposed, every manipulation undone, every stolen dollar secured in my control. The empire I had built with my own hands, my life, my work, my heart, was finally safe. Hale stood beside me, his presence calm and grounding as always. I caught him glancing at me, that familiar, unreadable expression softening into something warmer, almost unguarded. "You did it," he said simply, voice low, steady. "You set the trap and he walked right into it. Flawless execution." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "We did it," I corrected, the weight of his trust pressing against the fragile walls I had built around myself. I realized in that moment that it wasn't just the plan that had succeeded. It was us, Hale and I, working together, trusting one another completely. He stepped closer, and for the first time, the professional barrier between us seemed to dissolve. "You know," he said, eyes locking on mine, "I've never doubted you, not once. Even when things seemed impossible, I knew you'd find a way." The warmth in his gaze made my chest tighten. "It's not just skill, Hale," I admitted, voice soft. "It's trust. I couldn't have done this without knowing you were behind me." He hesitated, then reached out, brushing a loose strand of hair from my face. The contact was gentle, deliberate, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. "Then let's make a promise," he said, voice low, almost a whisper. "Whatever comes next, we face it together. No secrets, no games. Just us." My heart pounded, a mix of relief, exhilaration, and something dangerously close to hope. I nodded, barely able to speak. "Together," I whispered. The city lights glimmered outside the window, reflecting off the glass like 1,000 tiny stars cheering me on. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe without fear, like the weight of betrayal had lifted, leaving space for something new, something real. We moved through the office, checking the final confirmations of Liam's transfers, the escrow accounts fully secure, and the logs meticulously documented. Every keystroke, every authorization, every attempt he had made to manipulate the system had been captured. I allowed myself a small smile. Justice had been served. Then I turned to Hale, heart pounding in a different way now, anticipation lacing my every thought. "You know," I said softly, "I don't think I've ever had someone I could rely on like this. Not just for business, for me." Hale's expression softened, and he took a step closer. "You don't have to anymore," he said. "I'm here. Always." The intensity in his eyes left me breathless. I realized that the connection we had built, through strategy, through trust, through shared danger, had deepened into something neither of us could ignore any longer. I smiled, feeling a warmth I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. "Then I guess we have a lot of celebrating to do," I said, teasing lightly, though my pulse betrayed the excitement underneath. He chuckled, the sound deep and comforting, and extended his hand. "And we will. But first, let's reclaim our lives." I took his hand, feeling the firm, reassuring grip, the trust solidifying like concrete. "Our lives," I corrected, and I meant it, not mine alone, not his alone, but ours. Together. Later, as the city settled into the quiet of night, Hale and I stood on my balcony, overlooking the skyline. The chaos of betrayal, greed, and near death was behind us. Liam's reign of manipulation and control was over, and in its place was something brighter, safer, and far more exhilarating: hope, trust, and the possibility of love. I rested my head on his shoulder, inhaling the faint scent of him, familiar, grounding, comforting. I don't know what comes next, I admitted, but I know one thing. I'm not afraid anymore. Not with you. He pressed a gentle kiss to my temple. And you never will be. Not again. For the first time in what felt like forever, I believed it. The darkness of betrayal and near death was gone. In its place was a new beginning, a life rebuilt, a business secured, and a heart ready to trust again. And I knew, deep down, that this was just the start, not only of justice, but of love, partnership, and a future I was finally ready to embrace. Together, Hale and I would face everything. And for the first time, I allowed myself to feel not just victorious, but truly alive.